Niches and community interactions. What is a niche? A niche is a range of physical and biological conditions in which a species lives and the way the species obtains what it needs to survive and reproduce. Every species has its own range of tolerance, the ability to survive and reproduce under a range of environmental circumstances. That range has a lower limit, optimal range, and an upper limit. Beyond that, it won't survive very long. When an environmental condition such as temperature extends in either direction beyond an organism's optimal range, the organism experiences stress. The organism must expend more energy to maintain homeostasis, and so has less energy left for growth and reproduction. Organisms have an upper and lower limit of tolerance for every environmental factor. Beyond those limits, the organism cannot survive. A species' tolerance for environmental conditions helps determine its habitat, the general place where the organism lives. An organism's niche describes not only the environment where it lives, but how it interacts with biotic and abiotic factors in the environment. In other words, an organism's niche includes not only the physical and biological aspects of its environment, but also the way in which the organism uses them to survive and reproduce. The term resource can refer to any necessity of life, such as water, nutrients, light, food, and safety. For plants, resources can include sunlight, water, and soil nutrients. For animals, resources can include nesting space, shelter, types of food, and places to feed. How does competition shape communities? By causing species to divide resources, competition helps determine the number and kinds of species in a community and the niche each species occupies. Competition occurs when organisms attempt to use the same limited ecological resource in the same place at the same time. In a forest, for example, plant roots compete for resources such as water and nutrients in the soil. Animals compete for resources such as food, mates, and places to live and raise their young. Competition can occur between members of the same species, known as intraspecific competition, and between members of different species, known as interspecific competition. Interaction within a population, this is intraspecific competition. And competition for the same food, this is interspecific competition. Direct competition between different species almost always produces a winner and a loser, and the losing species dies out. The competitive exclusion principle states that no two species can occupy exactly the same niche in exactly the same habitat at exactly the same time. If two species attempt to occupy the same niche, one species will be better at competing for limited resources and will eventually exclude the other species. As a result of competitive exclusion, natural communities rarely have niches that overlap significantly. These three species of North American warblers all live in the same tree and feed on insects. But one species feeds on the high branches, another feed on the low branches, and another feeds in the middle. The resources utilized by these species are similar, yet different. Therefore, each species has its own niche and competition is minimized. Increased division in the availability of resources increase the number of niches. This reduces competition and allows for more number and kinds and species in the community. How do predation and herbivory shape communities? Predators can affect the size and prey populations in a community and determine the places prey can live and feed. Herbivores can affect both the size and distribution of plant populations in a community and determine the places that certain plants can survive and grow. An interaction in which one animal, the predator, captures and feeds on another animal, the prey, is called predation. Predators can affect the size and prey population in a community and determine the places prey can live and feed. Birds of prey, for example, can play an important role in regulating population size of mice, voles, and other small animals. Predation. This graph shows an idealized computer model of changes in predator and prey population over time. So starting with the prey has a large population, but drops because the predator rise in population. As the prey drops in population, then there's less food, so the predator population drops again. When the predator population drops, then the prey could increase again. And that cycle could continue. Again, that's idealized. An interaction in which one animal, the herbivore, feeds on producers, such as plants, is called herbivory. Herbivores, like a ring-tailed lemur, can affect both the size and distribution of plant populations in a community and determine the places that certain plants can survive and grow. For example, very dense populations of white-tailed deer are eliminating their favorite food from many places across the United States. Sometimes changes in the population of a single species, often called keystone species, can cause dramatic changes in the structure of community. In the cold waters off the Pacific coast of North America, for example, sea otters devour large quantities of sea urchins. Urchins are keystone species. They are herbivores whose favorite food is kelp, giant algae that grow in undersea forests. The sea otter and the sea urchins. In another scenario, are tortoises keystone species? Are alligators keystone species? What are the three primary ways that organisms depend on each other? In any relationship in which two species live closely, there are three main classes of symbiotic relationship: mutualism, parasitism, and commensalism. Mutualism, symbiotic relationship, and both species benefit from the relationship. A good example is the sea anemone and clownfish. Sea anemone's sting has two functions: to capture prey and protect the anemone from predators. Clownfish, they're immune from the anemone's sting. They use the anemone as shelter and protects the anemone from anemone eating fish. In mutualism, the honeybee and other insects have a mutual relationship by feeding on the nectar and pollinating plants. The plant benefits from the pollination, and the insects benefit from the pollen and the nectar. Parasitism is one symbiotic relationship in which one organism lives on or inside another organism and harms it. Parasite obtains all or part of its nutrients needs from the host organism, and they weaken their host. Example are tapeworms, live in the intestines of mammals. They absorb large amounts of their host's food. Another example is fleas, ticks, lice, and leeches. They live in the bodies of the mammals and they feed on the blood and skin. Flea, tick. Commensalism, symbiotic relationship where one organism benefits, and the other is neither harmed nor helped. An example of this is barnacles on a whale. Barnacles benefit from the constant movement of water and can then have a fresh meal. Whales have no benefit nor significant harm. Whale and barnacles. Another example is pilotfish and sharks. The pilotfish picks up scrap, a free meal, and sharks has no benefit nor harm. And a shark and a pilotfish.